Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Let's Talk Marvel Fan Theories podcast. Guys, we're out of Loki episodes, so we're ad-libbing this one.
Yeah, I hate that. Maybe not so much the ad-libbing part, that's fine, I can go off forever. But just the fact that we're out of Loki episodes and that was the finale that we got. That's all I have to say about that matter.
If you really want my opinion. And that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, if you really want my opinion, watch the last episode of our commentary on the Loki finale and check out the blog where I also am kind of...
Did you go off?
Not fully, because I think I said enough in the actual podcast, but I did start it off by saying, well, that happened. Which it did. It did happen. That indeed was an episode.
Serious fact. It did, in fact, happen. But anyway, since we don't actually have a specific Marvel episode of TV or a movie to talk about, we thought it might be a good time to just pause, regroup, and actually clarify what the heck we have going on for the next, rest of the year in TV going into next year. Maybe what we're hoping for, what we're expecting. We'll, of course, do this in more depth once we get closer to each of these shows, but we thought, it's a good time to kind of organize.
Yeah. First, call yourself out.
There is a retraction that needs to be made. We previously, incorrectly / wrongly, stated that She-Hulk was slated for the back half of this year, which is why we were very confused about how the heck they were going to fit all these shows in. In fact, according to an article I read today, it is slated for next year. And the only 3 shows left on the docket for this year are What If, which starts in about less than a month, so like 2.5, 3 weeks. So anyway, so we have What If coming down the pike, and then after that will be likely Hawkeye, and then Ms. Marvel, and then we will call it a wrap on 2021 for some other shows, including She-Hulk, to come back next year.
So I just want to say, I tend to assume she's correct when she speaks. Oh my god. So, no, I'm going to clear my name from this. When she said She-Hulk, I was like, sure, because I'm totally up to date on the movies. I know where the movies are. I know what's coming out where and when. But because we don't have full dates for the shows, I haven't been bothering. I just knew Hawkeye and What If for this year still. So I just truly was going off that she was right. So I just wanted to clear my name because I don't want to be connected to that problem.
Hey, whatever. Retraction over. It's done. Closing the book. Moving on to the actual episode.
Yeah, so I guess the first show that we're going to see still in 2021, and I guess we're going to aim to remain in 2021, we'll talk about the 3 that are going to show up, is obviously What If. I know we talked a little bit about What If already because we have had a trailer drop already. That's pretty exciting. I think it looks great. It also has much more of a meaning now that the multiverse is actually open.
And also in a very meta sense, it is the last time that Chad is playing T'Challa. Because not all of the actors, I think, played their actual character. I'm pretty sure Evans didn't voice
I don't think RDJ
character.
did either.
We all know Stan did thanks to his beautiful Instagrams. But I do know that Chad did, and so this will be his last time as T'Challa, which will, of course, be incredibly emotional, especially since it's right around the 1-year anniversary of his death.
Isn't it, like, the end of August 20th? I want to say August 20th, but
I know it was in August, but I don't remember exactly when.
I don't know why I would know the exact date.
I was watching a baseball game when I found out, and it ruined me for a really long time.
But I do have to say, I think something we need to bring up, moving topics from that unfortunately very sad news, but also, prominent aspect because that's going to affect future works, especially Black Panther 2. But I think something that's going to have to be talked about is this is technically, like, part of our timeline now.
Yeah.
Because all the shows are now canon, and I guess that would include...
before we say that definitively, it is possible that all shows are canon, but Kevin and the powers that be have not confirmed
But going off of saying that, this show would technically be a part of our MCU.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. Yeah. Again, not confirmed.
Well, that's why I said technically it would be. So I think that's a very interesting thing because we might kind of almost witness an entirely other universe.
here's one thing, and I've only watched the trailer once, but I guess one thing I'm wondering is, are all of these stories in one universe and connected, or are we going to look at, like, T'Challa as Star-Lord in a universe that's separate from Peggy being Captain Britain?
Isn't it Captain Carter?
Yeah, Captain Carter, sorry.
My understanding initially was that all the episodes were supposed to be different, but after watching the trailer, it seems that they all seem to follow, yeah. So, I don't know, I don't know if we're going to have multiple trailers for this show, mainly because it's a smaller set show, and it, like, not anything saying because it's animated, but because I don't think they want to pull out all their stops in a trailer.
Well, yeah, because technically everything in a trailer is a spoiler because none of it's the way we know. So everything they show us is like...
Exactly. And depending on how it does tie possibly to our MCU, it could be really critical. So I don't think they want to give us too much too soon. And to our point, it's 3 weeks away. So if we're going to get another trailer, it would probably be within the next week, most likely.
I feel like they were still dropping Loki trailers, though, like a week before.
But I do feel like Loki was a very different show. That's what I just think show-wise, Loki was a lot different. And you could show us a lot of things from Loki, it's not like we understood what was going to happen. I mean, think about what we saw from the trailer and our theories was nowhere close. Yeah, it was nowhere close to what we ended up seeing. So the thing is I feel like especially because I think this is only they're roughly probably 22, 23 minute episodes.
I think I heard that they were only full 45.
I heard that they were only going to be like a TV regular 30, but without commercials, roughly 22, 23. So I just think that they don't want to give away too much, and if it is one whole storyline, that's...
Yeah.
I mean, we already are seeing a lot of our characters taking on different types of roles, and they obviously do. As T'Challa, for example, plays Star-Lord instead of Black Panther. So I just think that they probably don't want to
reveal too much.
Although there is an Ultron web somewhere in there. I'm sorry, I'm in love with him. But yeah, no, I definitely, like, there's one, I saw it on the poster, you can see him, so I'm pretty intrigued by where he comes in, because obviously we know him as a villain, so I kind of wonder if we're going to see him almost as, like, our Vision,
Yeah. Isn't, Killmonger in it? I feel like I've seen Killmonger in one of the trailers.
I think I have as well. But I think he plays, like, I should have rewatched it. I believe from what I remember, and I could be totally incorrect, please don't hold me to this, he plays technically T'Challa's character.
So the King of Wakanda.
Yeah, I mean, I know he at one point is the King of Wakanda, but...
Well, like the real legitimate
king. But T'Challa's version versus being his version of it.
Right. A benevolent king versus a dictatorial king. Yeah,
so I think, but I do remember him being, it actually seemed like he played a pretty big role, which would make sense if that was the role he was playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, honestly, I'm looking forward to the Zombie Avengers, really looking forward to that, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, yeah, because we got a teaser of that
early on, we got a teaser of that.
Well, no, I just mean even in live action in Far From Home.
Oh, yeah.
Which was freaking horrifying.
No, that was a lot.
It was like way too soon after Tony's death for them to pull that on me.
Yeah, it really was. But no, we saw a still of that, oh my gosh, forever ago. And the reason
it had to have been on an investor day or something. Like, it was a while ago.
And I literally only remember it because it's zombie Captain America and Bucky's fighting him. That is why I remember it. And eyebrows on animated Bucky, A1. Like, they do a really good job with his, like, I don't know to every single character, but at least Bucky's, like, they do a really good job making Sebastian's face.
Well, think about it. It's Disney. They have the best animators in the world.
Yeah, I'm just saying. And I think he does his... Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sebastian does his voice.
Oh, yeah, because he has posted on Instagram videos of him in the
Oh my gosh, well, how could I forget that?
I literally just mentioned it 5 minutes ago.
I also sent them to you. I know. I was cracking up. Oh my god. It was funny because it had come up on my phone, and I was at a stoplight, so I clicked on it to watch the story really quick, and it's just him screaming. So my car is, like, vibrating with him. I was like, what is happening? But yeah, no, so I don't know. I feel like there's not too much you can talk about with this one.
I think my biggest question, and you kind of alluded to it, but I would like to discuss your thoughts on it. Do you think that, because I could see this going two ways. I could see it being, what if it shows us what's happening in the multiverse and it's kind of its own little island and it doesn't really affect the rest of the MCU? Or what if has some major overarching theme or overarching narrative storyline that actually does affect the larger MCU and plays in later? Like, I'm curious whether you think it's going to be, hey, this was a cool little one-off thing because we're celebrating that we opened the multiverse, or this actually has, like, is going to be consequential moving forward.
Honestly, I want it to be consequential, and this is why. I think it'd be very interesting, because obviously we have to take it now that our MCU was the sacred timeline, right? Okay.
Right, yeah.
That's that. I would think it would be really interesting if Marvel played this as a, hey, let's catch up on one of the other timelines.
Yeah.
And this is what happened in one of the other thousands of timelines. Just so we have a little context. And I think that, like, I think it'd be even more interesting to just do it the way that they're doing it, because obviously you can't spend another 10 years redoing how the entire
Right, everybody
MCU
looks older, it's way different.
And you can't. Like, you can't, which honestly, that'd probably be super interesting, but I just, you can't do it. But I think it'd be cool if this was their way of just saying, hey, here's a little bit of a nutshell of what's been going on in a different timeline. Or what an example of...
Technically, it wouldn't have been happening in parallel because it didn't exist until this last episode. But, like, here's a branch, and here's how the branch, in the time since Loki, here's how the branch has evolved, and here's what's happening.
Yeah. And I think this would be a cool little way to kind of give us an idea of what the multiverse... what we might be seeing with the multiverses. Yeah. And kind of get a gist. Because I think it would also be really cool if, like, for instance, their Spider-Man was the Andrew Garfield version. Mm. And then we see it play in.
It's Miles Morales.
But I would die! I don't think it is, because I don't think it was Miles in the trailer. But
that's just one version. How do we know we're only going to see one?
That's true. But I'm saying, like, say we follow only that one track. I would say that would be, like, a cool way to play it in. To kind of give a little background about, at least, this is where this Spider-Man's going to come from. This is where maybe if we do see another RDJ show up, because now the multiverse is open, so even though our Tony is dead, theirs isn't. Like, I think that could be really interesting. So, I would like it to be that way personally. How it's going to actually fit in, or whether it's going to fit in fully, I don't know.
Yeah,
that has yet to be confirmed. Until it's confirmed, you just gotta speculate.
Yeah, in terms of what I want, I'm on the fence. Like, I definitely see your thought process of, like, oh, this is what's going on, and, like, filling the blanks. But I think I want that, but I don't necessarily want it to have consequences in the MCU. Like, I just kind of want it to be, like, this fun little excursion into another timeline, but that it doesn't necessarily have a direct impact. Because I think it would be tough to bring that in, especially going from animated to live action, and I just think that's kind of like a strange transition. I don't know, like, I feel like if you were gonna set up the multiverse using that kind of thing, I would rather see that in live action. So I think I'd rather it just be like, hey, here's an example of, like, fun stuff that's, like, now possible because of the multiverse, but it doesn't necessarily affect the trajectory that the one sacred timeline is now on.
Yeah. But other than that, I feel like what if, like I said before, you really can't dive too deep into it, because
it's literally just like,
there's nothing to it that you could sit there and say, I know this. Like, so I think we've said enough about what if. I also believe simultaneously that Hawkeye would be the next show.
I believe so.
I do too. I know that one 100% has been filming.
Yeah, I mean, so has Ms. Marvel. I do believe Hawkeye started before Ms. Marvel, which leads me to believe it's further along in production.
I also thought it had wrapped, but I don't quote me on that.
Now that you said that, I feel like I read that, but I don't want to confirm because I'm not sure. But my gut tells me that Hawkeye's the next one. I think also partially because it makes more sense coming off of the momentum of Black Widow. Yeah. And the Yelena reveal, because he directly ties into that, versus Ms. Marvel is pretty much going to be introducing a brand new character, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Who will later come in the Marvels.
Yeah.
But
again, nothing wrong with that. It's just I'd rather them build off the momentum of Black Widow, and I think that's probably what they're going to do.
Yeah, so if we want to talk about Hawkeye, I mean, it's a passing of the mantle show. We know that. I do have to say, I think I'm excited for it. I think knowing Yelena's gonna be in it makes me more excited for it. And this is nothing against the character of Hawkeye. I don't know. I just think he wasn't always really my favorite. I like him as a character. He was like not my favorite person, character person. And I'm like, okay, this really is the passing of the mantle kind of show. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a lot different in tone than we are like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was also an example of the passing of the mantle. Well, not as directly, because we obviously see that more at the end of Endgame. But
it's
how
the aftermath of the passing.
Yeah, it takes it all up. That's a completely different story to me than passing your bow and arrow to a teenager.
Yeah. Agreed.
I
also just feel like Hawkeye is the most, as far as we know of his background, he's just the most normal. Yeah. Any dude, he's fantastic with a bow and arrow, but any dude who trains as a spy can come out and be a really good archer. That's essentially what he is. Just a really good archer. And that's not who he is in the comics.
No, I love Comic Clint.
Incredibly watered down character in the movies. I
agree.
In terms of, abilities and background. And
you know what? I want to say this. I love Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
I adore the man. I think he's freaking hilarious.
He's so funny.
But I agree with the fact that his character is watered down and it is not his fault.
No,
it is unfortunately poor writing. And I truly think that has to do with, especially at the beginning, when they were forming the initial Avengers, they truly, and they kind of did it to ScarJo too, they truly sat there and were like, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, important. And then it was like, okay, and then next in line would definitely be Hulk, because, we've at least had a movie for him. It didn't do great, but we at least had a movie.
Yeah, we had to recast the guy, but...
Yeah, and then they were like, and then the other two.
Yeah.
And definitely, kind of, they've gotten better with Black Widow. They finally gave her a freaking movie, so I'll give them that. But I do think because of how they prioritized their characters from the start and the way they clearly wrote them to be the way they were, everything was always Cap and Iron Man, everything.
Well, just think about the amount of screen time that everybody gets.
But that's what I mean, even too,
Hawkeye was under Loki's spell in the first Avengers, and he still had, so he was a part of the bad guy team, and he still had less screen time than the other, the least Avengers.
That's what I mean. He was unfortunately really watered down, because comic book Clint is awesome.
He's a super spy.
Literally love him. At one point, there are comics that literally have him, Natasha, and Bucky, and those are, I can't even explain to you the funny, I can't. But he is so freaking funny in the comics, and they do give him some good one-liners in the MCU, but it's just not the same, unfortunately, and they really do downplay his abilities.
Yeah.
Also, not to mention, he's deaf in the comics, and they said, haha, we don't care.
Yeah, that's just that was messed up. That was,
that was
completely,
messed up.
Wiped over.
Yeah, literally. But, yeah, I think maybe they'll talk a little bit more about how he came to be Hawkeye.
Yeah.
I think that would make the show more interesting, because I'm going to be honest, I understand the show is the passing of the mantle. I understand it's primarily to set up another character for the Young Avengers. I don't have a very intense involvement and want for the Young Avengers. I'm going to be honest with it.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be my favorite franchise
I just don't really do the whole, teenagers doing...
Peter Parker aside.
Well, yeah, because they write his character very well.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, from everything I feel like I've ever seen, when they try to bring, teenagers into the whole superhero aspect any other time, it just gets really annoying.
The only exception...
And that's coming from me, who's barely just got out of her teenage years. But truly, that is how
I'll say, though, the only exception, I genuinely enjoyed Cloak and Dagger. I really liked that series, and I think they're only 16 or maybe between 15 and 17 in that show. And I did not find that aggravating. I actually thought it was a really good show. So, and that's not, Kevin managing it. So, even having Kevin at the helm, obviously he's not writing it, but he's overseeing it and producing it, gives me a little bit of hope, but still, I don't know, I feel like where I currently am in my life, I relate more to the older Avengers than I would the issues and problems of a younger group.
Well, yeah, and I guess I just don't understand, because they're obviously not going to be our prime Avengers. They did that, I can assure you Marvel would probably lose at least half their fan base, because people would not be interested enough. They would not want to see them consistently on screen all the time, like we did with our actual Avengers. It's not...
Yeah.
The same. A TV show would make sense. I don't know. To me, when I think of bad things happening everywhere, I'm like, well, being in your later 20s or 30s makes sense to me to be fighting, evil and everything else that is coming at you. And I guess I just don't really understand the whole... I don't know. It depends on how they decide to write the characters, of course. But bad writing, I think, could really skewer this.
Well, yeah, and not to mention, some of these kids aren't even teenagers. Like, the twins, yes, they age quickly, but they were only, 10 or 12. We see them. Even Kid Loki, though, he was probably only, 13 or 14.
I will say, the guy who plays him does a great job because he made his character annoying. And I know I said this to you already, and I don't know if I said it on a past podcast, but I was already annoyed by him. So I'm like, okay, so if you're going to be involved with the Young Avengers, I'm going to be annoyed.
Yeah.
Just because, and not because the kid himself is a bad actor or anything. He clearly is acting well if I'm annoyed by his character.
Yeah.
But I just was like, oh my god. Even the kids, though, I'll say in WandaVision, they were annoying to me.
Yeah, no,
I'm
I agree.
sorry.
I felt like they were distracting from the actual... I know they were supposed to be, this emotional tether for her. And, that was supposed to be their role in the story, but I just found them, distracting and annoying, and I just, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting. I think the only other issue I would have with the Young Avengers, and I know we're getting a little off topic from Hawkeye because of this, but I think it's hard, too, because most of the Young Avengers are essentially the same version of other characters.
Yeah.
They're not new.
Right, it's
Kate Bishop is going... Yeah.
It's Hawkeye.
Kate Bishop's Hawkeye. The twins are literally Pietro and Wanda.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, even, what's his face's grandson?
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be a version...
Isaiah Bradley's grandson.
Yeah, isn't he, the Patriot or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's Elijah Bradley, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But his grandson's not Elijah, is it? Or is he Elijah?
No, it's Isaiah is the older man, and then Elijah's the grandson.
But he's some version of Captain America. I guess just for me, it's weird because they're not even...
The only one who's an original character is Ms. Marvel.
But is she going to be in that? Because she's going to be in...
Thought she was.
Oh, I don't know.
But I don't quote me on that. I thought that she was also going to be on the team because isn't she also rumored to be in the Multiverse of Madness? Apparently she's going to be in a bunch of properties coming out.
I refuse to look at any rumors for the Multiverse of Madness because they have kept that thing so under wraps. I don't even want to believe anything that comes out about it because I don't know.
No, I thought they filmed in upstate New York. That's, I think, the extent of what
I think it's wrapped. That's the only other thing that I...
Yeah, but it was upstate New York, wasn't it?
I think so.
I feel like that sticks in my brain.
But that's it. And I know Doctor Strange
and Alfred Molina
Wanda
is confirmed. And so the original Dr. Octopus...
From Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness?
Oh, no, that's Spider-Man. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about?
Never mind.
Literally the only two I can guarantee are in it are Doctor Strange and Wanda. You're welcome, everyone, in case you were wondering.
And then there's some strong pointers to Loki, but...
We'll see.
Unclear.
Yeah. But back to Hawkeye, I don't know. I don't really know what to expect. I mean, I kind of have already said what I thought. Yelena's going to come try and kill him. She's not going to be successful. It's not that she's not going to be successful, but he's going to convince her of what happened. Not really convince her, but just tell her, hey, this happened. Probably will take some convincing. She probably won't believe him right away because she's the Yelena and she's perfect, but she has trust issues. And eventually she's going to be annoyed that she was manipulated into trying to kill him. I think they're going to go after the organization, but instead, whatever that organization is going to end up getting Hawkeye. Not kidnapping him, but convincing him to join their team, and then they end up running off and joining Valentina's team.
Interesting.
And this is only because the Thunderbolts especially have Hawkeye in it.
Yeah.
He joins that team. And it has Yelena, and it has John Walker.
Yeah. My only qualm with that is I feel like Renner's done.
I thought so too, but I mean, who knows?
This was supposed to be Renner's swan song. That's what I thought.
If they do, if he wants to be done, and I mean, because they obviously could still do, if they do the Thunderbolts without him, it's not make it or break it without him. If they do decide to do it without him, I think it would be interesting, instead of giving it a happy little ending, if Yelena does kill him and finds out afterwards that her sister sacrificed herself for him, and then maybe she helps and gets involved with the family and,
I think we're going to see Clint retire.
Because
I feel like they've
killed off too many of their...
Yeah. And I feel like if you're going to kill off, the whole thing, that basically negates Natasha's sacrifice.
No, I know. But, well, that's why, I think that would really, like, be a lot for Yelena, and I think that would be a big character moment for her to have to face that fact that she really did just negate her sister's sacrifice. I was just saying essentially more for, that would be the, oh my god, ending.
Yeah.
That would be the Marvel didn't pull out the stop, like, they went for it here.
Yeah.
That would be the show stopping, I was shocked.
Jaw dropping.
Like when we see Yelena look at the picture of Hawkeye and we're all like, and everyone at the theater went,
yeah.
Like that would be it for me. But yeah, I don't think they'll do it. I think that would be
one
cool.
question I do have about Hawkeye, and this is kind of mundane, but I'm just curious. You know, everything happens in Endgame and they're at Tony's funeral. Does he go back to his family? Like, I know he does,
well, yeah,
but,
isn't
like...
his family at Tony's funeral?
Are they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's there with his entire family.
But I guess I just, like, I don't know, I struggle to imagine then him going and living that life after he just spent 5 years murdering people. Like,
yeah, he was kind of a terrible friend to Natasha in that time, because he, like, went off and he wasn't even, like... trying to help.
No,
I mean, to
he was
be
actually
fair,
making her life more difficult.
To be fair, he didn't know what. He was not in the Battle of Wakanda, so he very well might not have known. I mean, she did try to call him though, so like he would have. But I guess he was at that point probably on the run, not really on the run, but like being Mr. Murdery. So maybe he just genuinely didn't realize for a little while. I don't know. Yeah, I'm intrigued to understand where Kate Bishop comes from and how she gets chosen to be his apprentice.
Protégé,
yeah. Because a lot of people assumed his daughter would take up the mantle after we see it in Endgame. I mean, when she gets dusted. Not Endgame. Infinity War. No. Beginning. It's like... No, it's an end credit scene, I think, of Infinity War.
No, isn't it the...
Or is it the beginning of Endgame?
It's the beginning of Endgame, I believe.
Okay. I was like, it's one of them, and I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's the opening scene.
That's what I think so,
and
too.
And it's, like, incredibly jarring.
Well, yeah, and, like... Yeah, imagine how like, even... Those odds are literally against you. Like, you have a family of 5, including yourself, and you... Not even one other person.
I know.
But
actually, I know... based on the laws of probability, that should not have happened.
But let's not even get into that. That's why I pointed it out, though. But I know a lot of people assumed his daughter would take it up, because we obviously see her literally shooting bows and arrows. Or arrows with her bow. So many words are trying to come out of my mouth. So I'm kind of intrigued to understand where Kate Bishop actually comes out of all of this, because it's clearly not his daughter. So did he pick a random girl off the streets? I don't know.
Does she find him?
Yeah.
Like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
Does Valentina send her to him?
Yeah. So I'm more intrigued. I mean, I feel like I got a little more questions right now, because we don't have, obviously, a trailer. We have some distinctive stills that have been released from the set, but we don't really have much for that. I think, like I said, the real end of all of that is we see Kate Bishop part of the Young Avengers. That is where that takes us.
I actually think it would be interesting, and this is the last thing I'll say on Hawkeye, but I think it would be an interesting premise if basically he has to atone for what he did as Ronin, and that some of the show is, like, obviously, like, he only really killed bad guys, but, like, he still killed people. If, like, he has to kind of go on a Bucky level, like, atonement, like, reign, where he,
especially because he was, like, 100% aware. Bucky was brainwashed.
He knew what he was doing, and, like, Loki was enjoying it. So I think I also hope that there is, maybe it's not like the whole show, but I hope there is an element of him having to kind of face what he did in those 5 years and the kind of just, like, deep dark hole he descended into.
Yeah. But that's our thoughts on Hawkeye. Let's move into the final one we'll see in 2021, we think. Which is Miss Marvel.
I have no context.
I was going to say the same thing. I know nearly nothing. I'm going to be honest. When I used to play my game, she was in the game.
I know
my
her,
Marvel
like,
game.
Non-superhero moniker, like, her actual name is Kamala Khan.
Yeah, I do too.
But that's, like, pretty much the extent. I did read today that in I believe the comics, she's an Inhuman, which any fans of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would know what that is, but it was interesting, the article I was reading said, Marvel's kind of moved away from that because A, they had that really failed TV show on ABC, and B,
I forgot about that.
So did everyone else, and B, they, that was a really important plotline for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a while, so I think they probably feel like it's played out. However, the canonical nature of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is in question, so I'd be I wouldn't mind the MCU doing the Inhumans right. I think they're still an interesting species.
I just think if we're going to see any of that...
It would be in a movie. It's not going to be in a TV show. And it won't
be now. Because...
Too much?
Well, yes, way too much.
Yeah.
They're building the Young Avengers. They're building possibly the Dark Avengers and or Thunderbolts. They literally just opened the multiverse.
They brought in
We're expecting to see the Fantastic Four soon. Well, we know we are because the movies in the lineup just in way down the road. We're expecting to see the X-Men eventually.
The November movie, why am I blanking?
Oh, the Eternals.
Yeah.
They brought the Eternals in, thank you. That was a part of my list as well. I think you've got too much going on for you to bring in the Inhumans right now, so I wonder if they're going to kind of play down that aspect of who she is for this case. Especially...
The only thing, though, is, and here's why I think they might not, and they might use... I agree that it would be too much. However, if I remember correctly, the Inhumans were created by the Kree, right?
Which, that's a whole other thing. Like, I love Marvel, but they're stressing me the heck out right now.
With the Kree?
With
or the
everything.
Skrulls?
With everything. Bill, because, to be fair, they're creating a lot of things and adding to a lot of things.
Yeah.
That it's like, well, okay.
It's hard because I think the first 10 years, like, we kind of started out at the wide end of the funnel, and by, like, year 2 or 3, we were Thanos.
Well, and honestly,
and Infinity Stones. But the funnel was much narrower than the funnel they're creating now.
Right. And I also just want to point out, to kind of tweak what you just said a little bit, from the get-go, a lot was already about the Infinity Stones. I mean, literally.
Oh yeah, they were definitely in there.
But that's what I mean. Like that,
there was a lot of, there was some other stuff going on
before we even saw Thanos. It was the Infinity Stones, and yeah, there were, like, to your point, there was a lot going on. I mean, in Iron Man, that had nothing to do with the stones yet.
Right. You had the 10 Rings organization, which is coming back around. Right, I'm so excited.
But we at the time knew nothing on that. Even the Hulk, like, nothing that had to do with, obviously, like, the super soldier serum, but different.
Even, does the first Thor have to really do it?
I think it does.
I don't think so.
I don't.
No, because it's all about Loki finding out about the Frost Giants.
Yeah, because you know what? It's Thor Dark World.
Is all about the Aether.
Yeah. I thought it was Ether. Because of the way it's spelled, A-E. I thought you could
whatever.
Well, it might not be. I thought you say the way the letters were, or whatever. Like, no small feet.
Okay. Maybe I said it wrong.
I don't know. I just was saying, just to, like, that's what I thought it was. But, yeah, you're right. But from a lot of the movies they're on, there's at least an appearance of one. Mm-hmm. And even in the end credit scene, a lot of the early movies didn't, they wrapped up. You know, it was like, okay, Iron Man 1 wrapped up real nicely in a nice little bow. Mm-hmm. You know, it didn't leave too much to, like, obviously there was more to go off of, but not it from that movie directly. The characters, yes, but the actual plot of the movie, no. So, the entirety of the phases 1 through 3 to me revolved around the Infinity Stones. I think what's weird about the start of Phase 4 already is that we're facing so many different things.
Yeah, I mean, you've got so many species. You've got the Skrulls, the Kree.
And you know what? Not even that yet. We don't even have, like, a put-together Avengers team.
Yeah.
Like, that, I was just thinking about that the other day, and I was like, hold on. Like, yeah, we call all of these people Avengers, you know, Vision, Wanda, Bucky, Sam, Spidey, Doctor Strange, all of them. Yeah, we call them all Avengers, but I'm like, they're not a cohesive team.
Yeah, they came together that one time because there was a big old purple alien.
Yeah, and they are in no way the way that we saw our Avengers.
No, they don't live together. They don't work and go on missions together. They're not a cohesive unit.
No, not at all. And that's, so I guess for me, I'm like, okay, so we're getting a lot of threats here and not a lot of, like, our guys. Yeah. What's going on with our guys? And even they're forming the Young Avengers, and we don't know if the Thunderbolts are going to be, or Dark Avengers, whatever they choose to go with necessarily. I think they'll generally be good guys. I just think they'll be the good guys who don't care about getting the blood on their hands.
Yeah. They're, like, essentially like Deadpool, but less funny.
Yeah.
And,
well, I don't know. Yelena makes me laugh.
Yeah, but not in, like,
imagine her and John Walker. Are you kidding me?
But not in,
she
like,
freaking ruined that man's whole career.
They're not funny in, like, a Deadpool gross way.
No.
She's, like, a different kind of humor.
Yeah. No, for sure. But I guess for me it's a little stressful because it's like, okay, we've been getting hinted at the Kree /Skrulls / not, whatever that whole thing is going to be for quite a few movies now.
Well, Ronan the Accuser appears for the first time in Guardians.
Yeah, and then Captain Marvel obviously deals with them. Then we see them from Spider-Man Far From Home.
And then in WandaVision.
Yeah, so it's like, okay.
Yeah, but like circling back to Ms. Marvel, like that's why I feel like doing the Inhumans wouldn't be a stretch, because we already have had the Kree for like, 2014 to 2021, 7 years.
Yeah.
So it's not like the Kree are some new concept. So, it would be interesting, I think, and not too far to go to make that leap. And maybe you just explain her and like the idea, but you don't have to necessarily go super far into it.
Maybe that's what I was kind of saying. Like, they kind of avoid really doing too much with it.
Yeah,
but
like you plant the seed and then you let that grow later.
Well, right, so they at least have the opening and the door
like I really wouldn't mind them bringing back like the first family.
Who were the Inhumans again? Who are some of their big examples? Because I'm thinking of some and I don't know if I'm right.
What's the guy? I think her name is Medusa with the red hair. She wears that like pink dress. And then the big dog, Lockjaw.
Okay, I know the dog.
And it's something Bolt. I want to say Thunderbolt, but that's not it. It's the leader, the king.
This might be a dumb question, but where does it's Luke Cage and the woman,
Jessica Jones?
Yeah, who are they?
The Defenders.
Oh my god.
With Daredevil and
I did know
Iron
that.
Fist.
I used to know that at one point because that
was the whole Netflix.
I knew that. Yeah. Okay. I just was like, where? Because I think with my game I got kind of confused because I thought Miss Marvel was involved with them.
No, I think she's not to say that what's his face, Iron Fist isn't mystical, but she's a little too she is way more mystical.
Well, and you know what? If this is gonna be her origin, I want to understand.
Yeah.
Origin. Give it a full thing. Don't let me sit there confused.
Or maybe I don't know. I really like the idea of doing the Inhumans right, because I think they do have an interesting story, and I would really like them to do it justice, and I think the only way it's going to be done justice is if it's truly done within the MCU, because I think, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did a pretty good job with the Inhumans.
Well, but that was done pretty properly for a little while.
Yeah, but the Inhumans show, I didn't watch it, but from what I've heard, was not great, so I would really
it didn't make it that long.
I think it only got a half season or a season. So I would like to see them kind of done correctly and related. I think by correctly I mean related to the MCU at large, in a way that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was only kind of there.
Which is a shame, because they did try to align for a very long time.
Yeah, well, it was a one-way alignment though. The first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is obviously split, when S.H.I.E.L.D. is still a thing, and then exactly when Winter Soldier happens, because you watch it affect the show, yet nothing that they ever do in the show affected the movies. There was an entire, Inhumans, almost, I don't want to, outbreak's not the right word, but where a ton of people were turning into Inhumans. Are you telling me that didn't get on the radar of the Avengers? It was so one-sided.
Well, I guess to be fair, what were the Avengers going to do about that? Because...
But these are people with powers. They come out with superpowers. Yeah. That's an Avengers level problem.
Like a threat, you were saying. That didn't affect them as a threat. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Those are Avengers level problems to me. So I think my qualm is that while it may have been portrayed well in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the concept of the Inhumans, it didn't affect the larger MCU, and I would like to see them actually be a genuine part of the larger narrative in a way that being a part of that show didn't allow them to be.
Yeah, I got you. But like I said, I don't really have much on Miss Marvel. I think it'll be interesting, but couldn't tell you what it's going to be about other than Miss Marvel. I think we can all clearly just say, and I think we might have said it already, she will be in the Marvel. It's the
Marvels, yeah.
With Captain Marvel and Monica.
Yeah, Photon.
Yes.
Well, she has multiple names. So.
I think I saw somewhere though she will be taking on the
Photon name
moniker. Okay. Yeah. So I swear, I think I just saw it today or something. And we'll really see her more of what her powers are.
I'm so excited because she's so cool.
Well, and you know what? I'm excited. I think we've talked about this a little bit, and maybe this will warrant its own episode to talk about some of the things that we liked or didn't like about some of the Marvel movies. Maybe we'll make it a series. Who knows? And we'll go 2 movies each episode. Who knows? But I didn't love Captain Marvel. I just didn't love the movie, truly. I wasn't, like, taken by it. I didn't hate her as Captain Marvel. I know enough people hate her as Captain Marvel. I didn't hate her as the character. The movie felt weird, like, felt out of place. And because she wasn't like Black Widow, who's already such a beloved character that even though her movie was definitely out of place, everyone still loved her anyway, so they were going to enjoy it and watch it.
Yeah. I think Marvel perfected the prequel idea, like, used Captain Marvel kind of as a practice run on the prequel, and then were able to learn from their mistakes when they're creating Black Widow.
And like I said, the biggest problem was they were introducing her as this huge character who now was going to play such a big role in Endgame when we had no clue who she was.
Yeah.
Not that but like, if we go off of our MCU, we had no clue who she was. So I wasn't in love with that movie, and I do know a lot of people are kind of saying, wow, she couldn't even hold her own, so now she's got to have
some help.
Yeah.
But to be fair, other Avengers were cameoing in other people's
and I'm not
second movies, too. And, you know, I know what you're saying. I just, like, was Nat not in Winter Soldier? You think Cap couldn't hold his own trilogy?
Well, right.
I mean, look at his third movie. It's basically the unofficial third Avengers.
Which makes me really angry. They could have literally given him, like, his third movie and then did Avengers Civil War. Like, I was like, why did you make it why would you have wasted a Captain America movie on having an Avengers movie anyway? Like, there wasn't, like, I think when you break it up by screen time, he barely has the most screen time over RDJ. And then, like, a lot of the other, like, Sam and Bucky are really high up on that list because they play, like, I don't know.
I actually think T'Challa has, like, a large amount of time to screen time.
Because you don't realize it, but he does,
He's, like, in a lot of little scenes, but, like, they add up.
But I don't even get me started on that whole thing. I just am pretty interested because to some people's point that she seemed to not have held her own franchise, but I think it might be more interesting to have a kind of girl power trio. Yeah. And especially the type that they are. They're very cosmic being, like, they're like, whoa, a lot's happening with them. And especially Monica and her relationship. Obviously, she knew her. I mean, that seemed strange, though.
Yeah, there was some tension.
Yeah, so that should be interesting. We'll see
I also think that'll be an interesting dynamic to have a girl who idolized Captain Marvel as a child who now despises her. Well, and then some random girl who doesn't... Like, these two characters have so much history.
This is what I'm gonna wonder. And I was gonna say her, and then you kind of started to say it. I almost wonder if we're gonna see Kamala's... Well, yeah, I think we'll see why. But I almost wonder if we're going to see Kamala's character as someone who looks up to Captain Marvel. Oh, and so we're going to have Kamala the two different... Yeah.
Is inspired by Captain Marvel, and that's why she takes on the moniker of Ms. Marvel. Isn't that something that happens in the comics?
I think, these are not characters I spend a lot of time looking at. Just because they weren't very prominent prior, and they're not my favorites, so, not that they might not be more of a, but I just, obviously, we all know my favorites,
well established.
But, I know Kamala's supposed to be, like, relatively younger in comparison, as well. She's, like, only,
she's like 15 or 16.
Yeah, she looks very young in every rendition of her, so I just, like...
That's why I felt like she was part of the Young Avengers.
Yeah, I don't know. But either way, I think it'd be pretty interesting if we had someone who idolized Captain Marvel, and then obviously things somewhere went downhill, which I'm sure we will get some answer to. And then having someone who does look up to her so much, all working as a team, or at least trying to.
Interesting dynamics for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is similar to the whole Kate Bishop kind of thing with Hawkeye. I'm intrigued to understand where she's gonna come from.
Yeah, how does she link up with them?
Yeah, and even just where she comes from the get-go. How does she get her powers? And, like, obviously I know the comics answer these, but I want them to show, because she's not a well-known, I mean, she's a well-known character, but she's not, like, if I went up to someone and I said Captain America, they'd be like, yeah. And if I said Miss Marvel, they'd be like, do you mean Captain Marvel? And I'd be like, no. And then they'd be like, I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, a group of people would definitely obviously know, but most people on the street are not going to know who Miss Marvel is.
The layman or lay lady or lay person is not going to be like, I know who that is.
Yeah, but yeah, I would be really No, I have high hopes that they explain her story, because I think this is an example where you can't Spider-Man it and kind of skip 9 chapters ahead. Because she's not well known.
Yeah. And you also haven't seen it in 2 other semi-failed franchises, like reboots. Like, this isn't the 3rd reboot of the Ms. Marvel franchise in the past 15 years.
And you know what? Spider-Man before that, I mean, he had the cartoons. He was probably, and to this day, I mean, all right.
He is the most famous Marvel character of all time. Yeah. Period.
I mean, he definitely, I will say Iron Man and Captain America, and probably Thor, but especially Iron Man and Captain America are close runner-ups at this point.
Only because of the MCU.
But that's what I was going to say. And it was only because of the MCU that they're in that position.
You think Marvel, you think Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, I 100% agree. So, yeah, I don't know what to expect from it. I'm kind of, like, I'm excited, especially because it will lead into the new, well, I was going to say Captain Marvel. Well, I guess it is technically her. So it will lead into a new movie, but I don't know. All the shows coming up have more to them, so I think that's good. They're not going to just be, hey, here's the show, wrapping up loose ends. No, it'll be wrapping up loose ends, but here's plenty of other things that will spring off of all of this, so I think that's important to note. But until we really have trailers for any of them, well, I know What If is a different story, but for the other 2, until we really have trailers for them, there's not much you can really...
Yeah, it's going to be hard to know the direction.
Yeah, for sure.
That they're going to go in.
Well, and you know what? I can tell you already, Hawkeye's going to paint Yelena as the villain initially.
Which we all know is not
and
really
unfortunately that's going to be kind of the fog that goes over the whole Hawkeye trailers and all that until we actually start watching the show and things happen and all of that. So...
yeah, I think that's a wrap.
I think so too.
In terms of just a quick reminder for what's coming next, we will not have an episode next week. We're going to take the week off since we don't have weekly shows on Disney Plus anymore. So when we come back in 2 weeks, we'll have another just kind of breakdown episode where we chat about a topic we thought was interesting as we wait for What If to wrap, because we won't be doing a weekly show for that either. We'll just be doing a wrap-up show once all 10 episodes have aired.
Yeah, and then somewhere in there, obviously Shang-Chi's coming out.
Oh, true.
So keep an eye out for eventually you'll have our predictions episode and then our reactions episode.
But yeah, so that's what is coming down the pike for the next episode and when to expect it. And as always, please remember to subscribe to our podcast. Now that we don't have weekly episodes, you will get notifications when we do have episodes, so that will be helpful. And of course, please remember to follow the blog, linked in the show notes below, for some extra fun content and our Marvel memes content.
And also, we have our Twitter, which I love, because I really love to see everything that everyone has to say, and I like to interact with you guys. But I also do give updates on there as well, where I post the episodes once they come out, and the blog posts once they air, so please go follow that as well. That's Let's Talk MFT. Because once again, that also will keep you pretty up to date. And if you like memes or any kind of information in general for Marvel, that would be a good place to go for that. So definitely check that out as well. Yeah, and I just want to say, I mean, I hope this goes without saying, but there's been a lot of content recently. I hope everyone was keeping up with it. If you haven't watched Black Widow or the finale of Loki,
you should do that.
I'm not sure what you've been doing in your free time. But obviously make sure you guys were watching that. When What If does come out, watch that, because it's still going to be a great show whether or not it is involved in the actual MCU or if it's kind of just going to be a little like nugget we get. So make sure you guys are keeping up with all of that, because as always, Marvel just blew your minds, so let's talk about it.